Usernames, logins. Now that sounds like a really, really trivial subject. But believe me, I've been working online for decades, and in particular in the last decade I've been working with lots and lots of different clients. And in that time I have seen all manner of problems caused by this subject, so here's a short video with some of my thoughts about usernames and logins. The first golden rule is don't use shared logins. I've worked in places where there is the one login, it's the name of somebody who nobody can remember who they were. They used to work there years and years ago. This is a bad idea. For one thing, lots of systems such as Google Analytics allow you to have lots of assets and segments and reports and things which are all personal to you. And the other thing is, whatever you do, somebody's going to mess up the configuration or change things, and you won't have a clue who did it. So that, in general, is a very, very bad idea. My next point, which is even more important, is never rely on a single account. If you have only a single account and somehow or other you lose access to it, how on earth are you going to get back to your data? Now, for example, in GA there are procedures for doing that, but I've had to go through them for people who've been in that situation, and they are not guaranteed to work because, for example, Google are very, very strict about how you prove that you have ownership of the site, and it's very easy to fail on one of those issues, in which case you don't get access, you have lost access. So even if there's only just you, if you're a one-person organization, go away now and add a backup login in a different email address. That will save you huge amounts of trouble at some point in the future if you're unlucky. There is an exception, of course. If the system only allows one account, which is sometimes the case when you're trying to sign up, for example, for a trial account on some new system, it's very tempting to just go and use your own login in such situations. I would recommend don't do that. Use a generic one of some type, not a real person. Don't get into that. Don't start out in a way that's going to end up with that situation of you've moved on and in generations to come people are still using your name as the login. So set something up like shared@yourcompany.com. Set up a one that is deliberately there to be used as a common account and work that way. On a closely related subject, when you're setting up a new account on any system, even the ones that allow lots and lots of different accounts, nevertheless, I would use a generic admin login when you're setting it up. So again, don't set it up in your own name. Start out down the right way. In this case, I'd suggest that you need to use a generic email, an admin email, so that you still have access when the person who configured the account has left. Must make sure everything is bang to rights, the ownership is within the organization, not associated with one person's heaven help us Gmail account or something like that. This account has obviously got to be read by a real person, which means that you have to have a plan in place for how the forwarding works when that person changes. So it's very often in medium and larger sized organisation a sort of IT admin type thing, because those departments are very, very good at managing this type of process. Small point, don't use anything like admin as the email, don't make it so easy to guess. But this account that I'm suggesting here isn't the shared one. This is one that's just used for admin. So using something like usermanagement@yourcompany.com would do that kind of thing. This is a separate function from the shared one, because this one is then used to add the real users. It's never used in real life for actual work. So even if you're only one person, set up the admin account, do it that way, and then add yourself, your ordinary account, as a user. And right there, you've instantly got yourself 2 logins. So this is a much, much better way of proceeding in the medium and long term, even if in the short term it seems like a bit of a hassle. Final point, on a very similar point really, is try to discourage access being granted to accounts in the name of non-company emails, for example Gmail. So this was a big problem with Google Analytics, because particularly in the early days people didn't realize that you could have a Google account without having a Gmail account. So it was very common in the early days of GA, which are now, 10 years behind us at least, to set up accounts with Gmail accounts, not realizing that you could have a Google account in your company name. 10 years on, or 5 years on, or actually 2 years on, or 8, I think the current tenure in most jobs is about 18 months on in digital world. So 2 years on, you find that you're in a situation where you can't work out who anyone is, or everyone is. So somebody will come along and turf you out because you're using a Gmail account, because they can't recognize it, they don't know who that is. So they cut off access. The other thing that's a big issue here is quite often I will start working on a company and see there are all these different agencies have access to their data. And if the login is in the name of at least the agency's email address, then you can spot who these organizations are and realize they shouldn't have access anymore. They're no longer involved at all. And very politely maybe remove them. But if there are loads of Gmail and Hotmail accounts in there, it's impossible to do that. Now, I said this was going to be a short video, and I realised that it's not. Who would have thought I could talk for so long about something as trivial as this? But the funny thing is, over the years, I have seen this cause so many issues that I thought it would be a good idea to share some thoughts on the point. Thank you.